welcome back to class. Today we are going to be talking about how to simplify a cube root. So this is really simple, similar to simplifying radicals that we learned last week with the square root. So just as a review, last week we did problems like this, where I have the square root of, let's say, 18. Okay. When I simplify the square root of 18, I start by breaking it down and trying to see who's in number prison. So I have 3 and 6 multiplied to 18. Nothing multiplies to 3, so I circle that. 2 and 3 multiply to 6, and nothing multiplies to 2 or 3, so I circle all of those. Now that I know who's in the prison, we're looking for breakout buddies. The 3s are breakout buddies because they're the exact same. They break out of prison. They don't want any snitches, so one of them dies. Okay. So 3 is now outside the prison. Inside the prison, 2 is a singleton. He didn't have a breakout buddy, so 2 is stuck inside the prison. Our answer is 3 square roots of 2. So we're going to be doing that same process today, but with cube roots. So your job today is that you will be able to simplify square roots and cube roots and know what's the difference between the two. So cube roots are the opposite of cubes. So if I have 2 cubed, that means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. The cube root of 8 brings me back to 2. So today we are going to be figuring these out when they're not perfect cubes. So it looks different because of this little 3 right here. And because it's a little 3, it's called the index. This is not saying that this is multiplied by 3. To be multiplied by 3, it would have to be a big 3 like this. Okay, this is telling me that we have a higher security prison. Okay, to be able to break out of this prison, excuse the announcements here. To break out of this prison, we are going to need a bigger group. We're going to need some extra breakout buddies to be able to make it past the guards. Okay. So the first thing I do is I break it down just like we did before. We want to know who's in the prison. So what multiplies the 54? It's an even number, so you could do 2, and that would be 27. Or you could know that 6 and 9 go into this. Okay, if 6 and 9 goes into it, I keep breaking all of these down as far as they will go. If it won't go any farther, we circle it, like so. Okay, so now I have 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. I can always stop and check my work and put that in my calculator. 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 gives me 54. I know I broke it down correctly. Now, when these guys go to break out, like I said, they need more breakout buddies to make it out. Because of the 3, that tells me I need groups of 3 to break out of prison. So these 3s get together, they break out of prison. But they don't want no snitches. So 2 of them die. 3's on the outside, cube roots. Okay. 2 didn't have any breakout buddies, and so without breakout buddies, it's stuck in prison. So in the number world, this is our answer. 3 is now out in the free world. 2 is stuck in prison. When I wrote my cube root, notice how I put this 3 inside the bucket, and that's to make sure I can tell the difference between a little 3, meaning a cube root, and multiplying by 3, which is the 3 in the front of my answer. All right, so that is how we do radicals. So on your whiteboards, I want you to do the next problem. Okay, so pause the video, work through this next problem on your whiteboards. If you get stuck, check in with a neighbor and see if they can help you. And then when you've had a minute to 2 minutes to do this, then we're going to play the video and check your answer. All right, welcome back. You've tried this problem. You should have an answer on your whiteboard, and you're going to go through and check your own work. So the first thing I do is I break down the number. 40 can be 4 and 10. 4 breaks down to 2 and 2. 10 breaks down to 2 and 5. Now, you might have done this a different way. As long as you ended up with 2, 2, 2, and 5 in any order, then you did it correctly. X cubed means I have x times x times x. Okay. Now I look for my breakout buddies. So 2's, because there's 3 2's, they can be breakout buddies. And because there's 3 X's, they can be breakout buddies. They break out of jail, but they don't want any snitches, so only one of them makes it out alive. So we have 2 and X on the outside of our prison, cube roots, and then on the inside of our prison, we're just left with a 5. 2x cube roots of 5. All right, I want you to try this problem on your board. So you're going to pause the video again, work this out, and come back in a minute or 2 minutes and check your work. All right, welcome back. So on this problem, I hope you noticed that there is not a little 3 right here. Okay, because there's not a little 3 right here, this is a normal prison. It's not a high security prison. So instead of groups of 3, I'm looking for groups of 2. So I still break this down, and this is the first step for both types of problems. Okay, W squared means we have 2 W's, and y to the 5th means we have 5 y's. Now, because there's no 3 right here, I'm doing breakout buddies of 2. So I'm putting everything in pairs that can be in pairs. We don't want any snitches, so only one makes it out alive. So I have on the outside of our prison, 3 escaped, W escaped, and 2 Y's made it out. Inside our prison, we have a 3 left and a Y left. Remember, everything that made it outside, all the numbers multiply. And all the numbers on the inside multiply. So my final answer is 3WY squared, square roots of 3Y. All right. So if you guys are doing well, we're going to actually skip this first problem. If you are having questions, make sure you're working together and helping answering questions. Okay. You guys know how to do a problem with variables. Remember to just write it out. You put it in groups of 3, just like you would if they were numbers. The last thing I want to talk about today is what to do when you have a cube root of a negative. So you might remember from last week that if we took the square root of a negative number, we have -1 and 16, and then we introduced the letter I. So we would break this down to 4 and 4. 4 and 4 are breakout buddies. So we have 4, but because of the negative, okay, instead of writing 4 square roots of -1, we write 4i. Okay, it's a little bit different when we're talking about a cube root, and that's because of the nature of having negative numbers and how they multiply together. So the square root of 16 we could say is -4 times +4. And the square root, or what multiplies to -4 is 2 and -2. What multiplies to +4 is 2 and 2. Now, I want to have 2 things happen. I want to break out as many as I can, and I do not want to have any negatives on the inside of the square root. So right now I have a group of 2 positive 2's that could break out of prison, but then I'm going to be left with a -2 on the inside of my prison, and I don't want that. So what I need to do is I need to adjust my negatives so I have a group of -2's that can break out of prison. Okay. So if I take this over here and I change these positive 2's to -2's, -2 times -2 is still +4. All right, so +4 works, and if I multiply all of these, I still get -16, and it has to equal the number that we started with. So now I can put together breakout buddies of -2's. They break out of prison, they don't want any snitches, so only one makes it out alive. I have -2 cube roots, and then this 2 was left behind because it didn't have any breakout buddies. Because we can only have groups of 3. We can't do groups of 4, or you're more likely to get caught. Okay, so our answer here is -2 cube roots of 2. Now the thing that you can do, what you're going to notice as you do more and more of these, is if it is a cube root, the negative always comes out in front of your answer. If it is a square root, the negative always comes out, but it changes to an I. Let's do another example. If I did the cube root of negative 27. Okay, so when I break this down, okay, negative 27, I have the negative portion, and then I have positive 27. Okay. Then I can keep going with just the 27, and we have 3 and 9, 3 and 3. So the 3's are going to break out, but I have this negative 1. Now that negative 1 I could break down and do negative 1 and negative 1 and, or positive 1, and then negative 1, negative 1. This is another way that you can do it so that you can see that the negatives come out. Okay, if this just still isn't working, remember, just pull this negative out in front. So the 3's break it out, only one makes it out alive, so we have negative 3 as our answer. All right, you guys should be prepared to do your assignment at this point. Remember, please help each other. Please work with each other so that you guys can be successful. If you have any questions, make a note on your paper so you remember them when I come back tomorrow and I can answer your questions. After your assignment today, please get on a Chromebook and do your checks. You can do the check for this lesson, okay, for 5.2, and you also need to do the check for 5.4 from last week. Okay, I'll have a good day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.